Hello there everybody, it's Tigitar here. Welcome back to another Tigaria episode. So we're here on Tigaria. It's been actually quite a while since we had one of these episodes, but I wanted to do a little update for it. And so I'm just sleeping here until the thunderstorm's over and it's daytime basically. And it looks like we're just about there actually. I wanted to share what I've been working on and what it looks like so far, and also build a little section of it so that I can kind of show you guys what the process that I have figured out is. And so if we come right over here, this is a part that I've gotten mostly done. It's not finished yet, I'd say, but it's like a good base to work with. I wanted to go for like the living green growing look. So basically these two tree trunks here that kind of wrap around and connect with each other up here and then start wrapping around the stone structure are kind of going to be the main supporting unit for the rest of the base itself. And there's going to be 3 others besides this one here. So I'm planning on one here, 2 others down here, which I already have sort of laid out, and then a 3rd one over here, which I want to try to build today together. I'll try to sort of describe the things that the different blocks and things that I've used here. So all of the tree itself, the brown bark, is brown painted either living wood from the living wood wand or living mahogany from the living mahogany wand. And I kind of just tried to blend it in randomly. I also actually started here with, you'll notice these lighter spots. There's some smooth marble blocks that are also painted brown that kind of blend in to add a 3rd texture. Now, I haven't been using those after this initial part here. I kind of tested it out, but then I sort of decided that I liked it a little better without it. They're a little bit too light, and so I may swap those out here, we'll see. Or maybe if I change my mind back, I'll have to include it around the rest of the parts too. Bringing in another texture really does help in a lot of ways. I've got the living wood and I've actuated certain parts of it to make it look like it's in the background or winding around behind other parts of the tree. And so one of the reasons I wanted to do this was because I wanted it to be accessible if you're flying around or walking around the base. I wanted you to have the mobility to walk around it. And that's pretty important for my builds. I usually like to include that. I tend not to go for purely aesthetic builds where you basically, the only thing you can do with them is take a screenshot of them. I like being able to explore and interact with the build a little bit. So I wanted to have the ability to travel around the base without requiring the Rod of Discord or anything else. So that's why I went with actuated blocks to drop part of the tree into the background, but I still left some of it unactuated, and I tried to use it to the best of my ability to sort of display depth, which I'm definitely still working on, as you can probably tell. The tricky part with the actuated and non-actuated blocks going together, it's basically the same block palette, only some of it's actuated and some of it isn't. And so in order to smooth out the boundary, such as this little one that I'm walking on right here, I wanted to hammer these blocks so that the tree would look smoother, as if there's part of the tree, a branch or something, that's coming out closer to the screen, to the point of view. And I wanted that branch to have a smooth edge. I didn't want it to just be blocky. And so I hammered the blocks, but then that left these little spaces where you could see the background where my cursor is here. Maybe I should zoom in, that might help a little bit here. Back here where these sort of darker triangles are, they're actually living wood walls that are also painted brown, although that doesn't make that much difference. And so that fills in the space, keeps the light from coming through, and it matches the colors pretty close. But you can definitely tell if you look for it. I use the same thing here next to the grass so that I could keep the hammered grass blocks. And oh, you know, now that I'm looking at this, I forgot a step. I usually regrew the grass here. And so this, if I do this, hopefully it will make it a little bit greener and easier to, it'll look like the grass continues a little bit more. There we go. Okay, that's a little better there. Oh, and I see a spot where I missed here. So let's actually fix this. This is good. See, I thought this section was mostly done, but evidently not. Oh, I should probably go invisible too. Maybe that'll make it easier to see. So this block right here is not hammered, so it's melding with the grass block here, and so it just looks like dirt and it's not very grassy. And so if I hammer it into a half slab, the grass comes back, or if I slope it away from the grass, it also comes back. So that's what I'm gonna do there. And it looks like I already had the background placed there, so there's no light coming through. So that's great. The parts that come into the foreground in front of the stone structures, such as this branch here or this one down below us here, basically I just placed the living wood over the stone and grass. And then I smoothed it out again, similarly to how I did the edges of the branch section in front of the other tree. Except in this case, where the light was coming through, I put stone walls to cover the gap. And in order to make it a little bit lighter to match the stone that's already placed, these walls are actually painted white, which is why I have white paint on me as well. So I'll show you that when we do the next section as well. So white painted stone walls for that. And that helps sort of blend the textures together while still allowing us to get the smoothed out branch look for this limb coming through here. I'm still probably not quite done with the emerald gem spark walls, but I tried to put some of those in to keep the green glowing effect going through the trees, like the roots and behind the trunk and everything. And I'm going to try to have it winding through the branches as well. So that'll be something that I still need to work on. But after I get the main branches or vines or whatever these main twisty parts are, once I get those laid out, then I try to add some leaves. And so I add little branches coming out here or there, and I kind of just match the branch to whichever depth that the trunk that it's coming off of is on. So this branch here is all actuated in the background because it's coming off of the actuated part here. There's a little branch over here and one down below here that are not actuated to look like they're coming off of the foreground parts of the tree instead. And so I tried to add a little bit of depth using that, and it worked okay, but I definitely still use some more practice to figure out how to smooth out some of the kinks or make the transitions a little bit more realistic looking. So basically it's just a lot of tinkering around with actuated blocks, non-actuated blocks, how to make them blend together, how to twist them around to make it look like there's actually different parts coming in and out of the foreground. One of the tricky parts, so this branch right here, it travels behind the stone part, but then I tried to make it so that it comes into the foreground here and then comes around the front side of the stone oval right here and then dips down back in the background over this way and goes behind the other branch over here. So I have some sort of an idea in my mind of how I'm kind of trying to make it go, but it's pretty hard to make it actually look like that, I find. So anyway, it's a pretty slow process and it's kind of tricky, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at it as I get more practice, and hopefully I can get the whole thing covered here eventually. It's been really slow progress though. Like unfortunately it's not really something that I can just sit here and mindlessly grind out. It actually takes a lot of attention and effort, and so it's taking me a lot longer than I would like. And I'm also probably bad, which doesn't help. Anyway, here's the second supporting trunk that I have going here. Again, actuated through the lower section so you can walk through it. This one does not yet have the leaves or branching little branches coming off of it. So still have to add that, still have to add some little textures here and there, and probably some other things as well. I just have a little start for the third support trunk here. We need a fourth support trunk to go right over here somewhere. So I think that's what I want to try to do real quick right now together, and I can kind of show you the process. And so I'm going to try to mirror roughly the same location as our first one over there. And so it's going to be probably right about where we're standing here. I'm imagining leaving a little bit of a gap between the crystal and the first trunk here so that we might be able to build a pathway out and something can be over here. Probably end up removing these trees sooner or later. So let's try to roughly do it between here and here, I'd say. But before I start placing, I think I'm gonna have to expand the area just a little bit here. I probably want to be more consistent with the trunk height generally. I'm trying to make each one unique, but I think that the general size and height that we have going is all right. And so I'm going to try to do that again. So in order to do that, I'm just going to grab our nice little DCU here and make a little expansion on outside of the ring here. And I'm just kind of going to roughly eyeball it. It looks like something around there would be a good distance to build a trunk out to. I think that'll probably do it. So let's just get these walls out of here, smooth out the surface, and then we'll be good to go. Oh, another thing is I'm probably just going to replace as much as I can see of the stone and ores with dirt. Eventually, I do still want to do a lot of terraforming on the ground surface here. I think it'd be cool to add some green textures, some rocky textures, and things like that to really make it unique and pop out a little bit. Unfortunately, it's already getting dark here. That's not ideal. Luckily, we have our faithful wisp in a bottle here with us. If you're wondering, I actually have shadow paint on our wisp here. Excuse me, shadow dye. And that makes it just sort of blend into the background, and it gets it out of the way, I find, so that it doesn't block my view when I'm working on building projects or anything. I'll just do a little bit of manual smoothing out here as well with the hammer, grab the staff of regrowth out, and replant the grass, and then we'll be good to go. Alrighty, cool. So now we have a similar sized area. It's still maybe a little bit skinnier than the bottom, but I think it's pretty close to the first one over there. So I'm just going to start with our living wood wand. I am going to turn the paint sprayer back on now so that I can just have it all consistently painted brown. And I'm going to try to lay it out. Now I'm trying to decide, I want to make it unique from these three that we already have. So one option could be like 3 smaller trunks close together into one supporting structure. Let's just start laying some stuff out here and see what happens. Just kind of no real specific thing that I'm looking for. I'm just going to try to make it look mostly random. Alright, so maybe some sort of shape roughly like that for one of them. Man, it is just a little bit harder to see at night is the issue here. During the day, there's lots of light coming in from around the trunk that I'm building. But it's a bit hard to see at night, and I'm sure it's probably even harder to see in the recording, so I apologize for that. So there's maybe 2 general structures here. Maybe we could do a third one that sort of goes behind them. And we could make it come in from over here on the right. Something close to around here or something. And then we'll try to have it dipping behind both these other trunks down below it. Now the tricky part is going to be deciphering this mass that I've just put up here. Well, the way I have it now, it almost looks like this one that I thought was going to be in the background kind of cuts all the way across to the bottom where we have this part down here. Maybe we could have them all sort of twisting around each other. I guess this one here could be our foreground one or our most foreground one. This one could dip behind, and then this one could be somewhere in the middle, coming around that way. I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. Okay, let's get some actuators going here and see if we can salvage this at all. Okay, well, I placed some actuators here. Let's see what happens if I turn these on. I have kind of an idea of what I'm going to try to do, but it's going to be tricky. The thing is, we only have basically 2 planes of depth, right? We have the foreground, the actuated, or the non-actuated, and then the background, which is actuated. And so if we want to do like 3 different things that each have their own, that all cross each other in a different way, it's going to be really tricky, but I have an idea that might work. I also recently discovered that you can actuate things using Smart Cursor, and it's actually really, really nice and pretty dang satisfying. It's really cool. Would recommend. This is the base that I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to work with. Although I think I might actuate a little bit more of this little trunk down here and maybe more of this section up here as well. So let's get our hammer out and see if we can smooth out the edges in a way that makes it look sort of like that. Now the tricky part is going to be this part right here, because in order to have this part actuated so we can walk through it, it doesn't look like part of this one stem anymore, which is an issue. Okay, so it's kind of smoothed out now. Now the trick is going to be separating the two secondary background branches from each other. So I'm probably going to have to hammer and smooth out an edge right here to make it look like this branch has an edge here. Okay, I think I might go with that. So this branch will come over here, curve this way, and then end up over here. Okay, so now we have the walls done. It's kind of maybe close-ish. And so from here, let's take this middle one and shoot it through the stone here. And then these other two will pass behind and then loop around. So for this, I kind of just, I don't know, try to imagine which direction I want to go. I think I'm gonna try to curve it down this way, and it's gonna twist downward. And so I'll just kind of try to keep it the general size that we have the same, and try my best to put the blocks in the right spot, kind of. It's kind of tough though, because with the blocks all blending like this, it's hard to see where I've placed and where I haven't. So I like to use the map for this part, and I check kind of to see what the size is looking like, if it's comparable to what I'm looking for. It looks like I'll have to go a little bit bigger. And let's go ahead and bring it out a little bit so that it can start wrapping around the other side of the structure here like this. Especially during nighttime, I really do use my map a lot to look at the build and what the shape is of things. Let's try to get the hammer out and smooth out our edges. So basically what I do is go for where the living wood has a corner piece, so right here. Hammer that towards the branch like that. And then once I have all the corners hammered, I'm going to zoom in again because this is probably really hard to see. Say I want to hammer this block right here to stop these from blending together. I could do that and that would stop the blend, but then the tree branch has a really rough edge to it and I want it to have a little bit of smoother edge. So I'm going to leave this block full and hammer this one away from it, and then this is going to be the one that I put the white stone behind, so that we have a smooth edge of the tree branch and we get the separation so that it actually looks like the branch is in the foreground. Up here is a little bit different. We have the background branch connecting with the grass here. Okay, so for this part I'm going to smooth out the grass to where it's got its regular surface. I'm going to take the paint sprayer off and replant the grass on the corner sections. The surface looks a little bit weird, like it looks different from here, because technically there are blocks surrounding it, but we can help that if we hammer the living wood where it's connecting, like this, and maybe like that, and then same with up here, and that way the grass looks a lot closer to the same texture that we have over here, and it's a little bit harder to tell that something weird is going on there. Put the living wood walls back behind here. Okay, there we go. So now we have the branch with its smooth edges cutting right through the structure. And now we just have to sort of make it look like the structure is put back together. And that's where the white paint comes in with our stone walls. And we can just fill in stone walls everywhere we see background lighting, or darkness in this case, since it's raining and nighttime and crazy dark. Now let's see about this one back here that is coming up from the background, and let's decide which way we want to go. Probably it's just going to curve upwards to some area for now anyway. And I'm thinking of having the other one do the same thing. It's going to curve up and then come back to meet this one, and they're going to go upwards in the same direction, while this one goes down and might have a couple more splits later on. We'll see. So if this one's going to be in the background, and then this other one is going to come up and come out this side over this way, and then somewhere in here it's going to transition into the foreground, hopefully, and sort of cut across over the top of this guy. Oh, another thing that I often do is while I'm doing this, turn off the pickup text, and that makes it a little bit easier to see things when stuff gets pulled into my inventory. Okay, another round of actuation here. Okay, we're actuated here. I think the next thing is going to be some more walls in this area, and And I'm going to start with stone walls behind here that's painted white. So that's kind of the idea there. And it's okay, I think. It's kind of coming together a little bit. So the next thing that I'm probably going to do is get the rich mahogany wand, mix this in as random as I can. And this actually is like the main difference maker I find for these. It just brings in that other texture, and it really helps take your eye off of the weird transitions that I've tried to do. Looks like we're gonna need a little bit more living mahogany actually, but generally that is kind of how I get the baseline started, and from here I just got to add the branches and the leaves, and then, you know, like half a dozen other things that take a lot of time. But this part right here that we've just done has taken me over an hour just to do this little part here. I've been talking a little bit, but I don't think that slowed me down at all. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to share a bit of the process with you guys. Hopefully you found it kind of interesting. It's definitely cool coming up with, but it is a lot of work. Like, this is one of the higher effort projects that I've done, I'd say. Trying to do the different layers at different depths, and using the actuated blocks and the non-actuated blocks and the background walls to try to blend them. It actually is so much harder than most building projects that I do. So it's like a really good challenge and a good learning process for me. But it's just taking me so long. Hopefully I'll be able to get better at it. I'll keep trying my best to stay steady on the project so that we can get it done. Once the entire ring is overgrown with the vines and roots, I'm planning on using the white brick similar from our main castle palette here, and setting up little platforms and walkways to go all the way around the thing. And then from there we can have the branches separating off to get to the good stuff. Oh man, I can't wait. Anyway, that's going to do it for this little update episode. I hope you found it interesting. The song of the episode for today is Self-Control by Laura Branigan. So check that one out. If you're interested in joining the Discord, there's a link in the description for that. And with that, I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an outstanding rest of your day.